Welcome again, everybody, to accelerate your time to value with ServiceNow's targeted service offerings. My name is Mick Brickner. Before we jump in, I'm going to put up our safe harbor notice here. So you should know this presentation may contain forward-looking statements that reflect the current beliefs of ServiceNow and are based on current information. These forward-looking statements should not be relied upon in making purchasing decisions. And today's session is part of Live on ServiceNow, a curated event series to connect you with ServiceNow experts and peers that can help you deploy your products and achieve value faster. We hope you join us again at another webinar or meetup. You can see the schedule by scanning the QR code on the right or using the link in the chat. And I'll just pause for a second for anybody who might be scanning that code. But the link's in the chat too. Okay, and then just a couple quick housekeeping items. We save time at the end of the session today for Q&A, ample time, hopefully. So please use that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen along the way. Know that the presentation will be recorded and shared on the ServiceNow community as well. And after the event, you'll be prompted to fill out a short survey. Thank you in advance for your feedback. We really appreciate that and take it seriously. So please be honest with your feedback, and let's go ahead and get started. So thanks again for joining us. My name is Mick Brickner. I'm a service owner in our customer outcomes function within ServiceNow. And as I said in the chat, I'm based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where it's kind of a cloudy day. And I'm fighting through the remnants of a cold that seems to just not want to go away, but I'm feeling energized with the webinar. So that's all good. And joining me is Anna. Anna, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Mick. And thanks everybody for joining. So my name is Anna Alstam, also a service owner here at ServiceNow, part of the same team as Mick. So just quickly, our team is definitely working cross-functional. So we working closely with our sellers, our product team, our leading practices, our marketing team, our delivery team. So everything you're going to see here today is input from multiple part and functions and teams from our company here. So thanks for joining this session.
Thanks, Anna. So Anna and I today, we're going to discuss the different service offerings, types and categories that are offered by expert services. So our agenda covers those offering types. We will stop and focus on some specific examples within each of those categories or types. And then, as I mentioned, we'll leave time for Q&A at the end. So feel free to ask your questions along the way, and then we'll circle back to answer as many as we have time for at the end. So the key objective for you today is to really understand how ServiceNow expert services can help you implement and enhance ServiceNow solutions with our service offerings. So we'd like you to walk away with a better understanding of that at the very least, along with some specific examples and really food for thought around what expert services can provide. And with that, when we talk about our service offerings, we really break them down into three main categories. There's implementation services, advisory services, and then optimization and remediation services. We'll look at each of these categories, as well as some specific services and examples that we offer within each of those categories. But first, we have a poll question, our first poll question. So before joining this webinar, did you know that ServiceNow offers service offerings? A lot of yeses, some nos, a couple unsures. Okay. It's about what I expected, I suppose. For those of you who answered no, or I wasn't sure, This will be a great opportunity for you to learn more about expert services and our service offerings. And for those of you who answered yes, some of what we're showing today are newer offerings, which you may have not heard about, which would be a benefit to you. And we'll go into some level of detail that maybe you haven't received or heard about with some of the specific examples. So there's definitely still a lot of value here for those who've worked maybe with expert services before, or at least knew about our service offerings. So now I will kick it over to Anna to talk about our first category, implementation services.
Great, thank you, Nick. Yeah, so as you all probably can imagine, the most common service that our customers are looking for and what our expert services team spend most of the time delivering is some form of an implementation service. So this is how you as a customer will get to value by enabling and deploying the ServiceNow solution on the platform. And the different type of profiles, like customer profiles for these type of services are, of course, net new customers. They're buying our license for the first time, and now they need to implement the solution. But we do a lot of implementation services also for our existing customers. There might be customers that are expanding on the platform. They'll implemented ITSM, and now they're moving to HRSD or CSM, or it might be a customer that just want to expand a current product that they implemented to maybe move it to the full enterprise or implement some of those more advanced products within that product. Can you move to the next slide?
Yep, there you go.
All right, so sorry. So one flavor of an implementation service that we offer is implementation design. So as you can see here, it's not the full implementation, but what our team do, they really focus on understanding what is your, as a customer, desired outcomes, and then design a solution using all the platform capabilities, following all the leading practices to enable that. And there are multiple reasons why our customers are interested in like a design service only. So one reason could be that it's as you start the journey, you might have unclear requirements and scope, and of practical reasons, it's very hard to estimate and kind of scope a full implementation. So that's why they start with the design, understanding more what is the required to then configure, what is the effort and investment level for the next phase. Another other reason why customer work with us for the implementation design is that they haven't really determined yet what the preferred motion is to implement and configure the solution. Some of you might be working with partners and you want to engage the partner to configure the solution, or maybe you have a bench of developer internally and want to utilize those resources, but still see the value in working with ServiceNow experts that are experts on the products to do the design. And the key output from an implementation design service is that documented design. So the user stories and the technical design, but also high level kind of proposal plan to then execute on that. So all our implementation design services, as you can imagine, would require that second phase, which would be to execute on that design.
Thanks, Anna. Question for you. For implementation design, we know that AI is a hot topic these days. And so is ServiceNow's Gen AI, Now Assist solutions, are those included in the scope of implementation design?
Good question, and a very hot topic out there. Yes, so our implementation design service includes scope for Now Assist, which is the Gen AI scope. So our team would most likely advise you as a customer to include that scope as part of implementation. But we also need to remember that you would need to have the required license entitlements. We don't want to design a service that you can't actually execute on. You might have heard about our new SKUs that are out there, that the Pro Plus SKU that include that Now Assist product. So that would be required for you then to be able to execute and implement the Gen AI pieces. However, I would say if a customer does not yet have the required license entitlements, our team, as part of this service, like an implementation design, could still have working sessions with you on the topic of Gen AI to talk about what are the prerequisites and what are the critical components that you should design for to be able to be successful when you later on might embark on that Gen AI journey. We know that a lot of our customers want to go to implement the Gen AI capabilities, even if it is not ASAP, but in the near future.
Sure, thanks. So this customers will walk away with like a solution design, but what if they need that design implemented? What are their options there?
Yeah, no. So let's move to the next slide because the goal there is to talk about the full implementation.
Perfect.
So yeah. So very often we work with our customers throughout the entire life cycle. So we do the design, we execute, we support you guys in the testing, we are there during post go live. And these type of like end-to-end implementation services, we usually refer to those as tailored implementation because we know every customer is different.
What are the different ways, Anna, of contracting these different implementation service offerings?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about that. So our tailored implementation services are, as you can imagine, sold with a time and material as SOW. However, we know there are a lot of companies out there and in the different segments and federal, for example, that would prefer more fixed price service offerings, and that can also be easily contracted through SKUs. So therefore, we are constantly looking at what are the different ways that we can define services that we also can create fixed fee and with SKUs. So today, our implementation design service that we just talked about on the previous slide, that one can be purchased through a fixed fee SKU. And again, we know that it's not one size fits all. So we have defined that service to be flexible and the different tierings of that SKU. And our goal is to have flexible SKU services for the full implementation this year as well. So both provide that flexibility, but also allow for a contracting mechanism that is not as painful as a tailored SOW can be.
Sure. So we talked about both of these implementation services pretty broadly. What are the areas where we offer either of these services?
Yeah, another good questions. And let's move to the next slide. Instead of me just listing, I like illustration and visuals. So this is a high-level view of our platform and the different workflows. And within each workflow, we have a different product. So for example, under the technology workflow, we have ITSM, we have ITOM, ITAM, SecOps, risk, PPM. And in summary, we deliver and offer implementation services, as you can imagine, for all our workflows and for all our products.
Nice.
All right, back to you, Mick.
Thanks, Anna. So I'll transition away from implementation services and talk about our next category, advisory services, which are typically for existing customers, so a little different from implementation, or at least some of those use cases. Existing customers who've completed implementations and are maybe struggling to get the full value out of that implementation, or maybe it was a successful implementation and now you're deciding where to go next. So advisory services will typically include some type of assessment. They'll start with an assessment that can be manual, where a consultant goes in and does like a manual inspection, assessment analysis, or it can be automated using scripts or something like our health scan tool. A lot of times it's a combination of both. So it's not just one or the other. And out of that assessment, you get specific recommendations based on the findings of the assessment and aligned with our leading practices. So typically that's what you'll walk away with one of our advisory services. And a recent example is our process of capability assessment. Really good example of one of these offerings, and I'll let Anna talk about this one.
All right. Yeah, so over the years, our expert services teams, they have delivered a ton of different assessment services across all workflow. But I would say we do it most frequently within the technology workflow. In this past year, we formalized this offering, as Mick mentioned. It is a process and capability assessment service. And the key activities that our team delivers here is an assessment, and we look at both processes and the configured solutions. We know that how our customers have implemented their solutions is mainly driven by what their processes look like. So therefore, including that process assessment is definitely critical. Secondly, the team would analyze all the findings from the assessment, process, and technology focused, and provide recommendations and next step, like a roadmap. After this, kind of the first two steps, this is where our traditional advisory service would end. So we assess, then we analyze, provide recommendation and roadmap. However, with this specific service offering, we added scope and effort around designing and building out some of the prioritized scope. So our team in this service would work with the customer and agree on what is the most valuable area that we could tackle to kickstart the new value journey. So based on the assessment, what are the low-hanging fruits? It maybe could be something that, hey, this is an area that you're really struggling and you need to fix it. Or it could be something that, hey, this is an opportunity. This is some capabilities you haven't implemented yet. So let's start that journey and implement that. But it's a little... it helps us deliver even more value as part of this service offering, not just telling you what's working and not working, but also actually helping you there.
Yeah, nice. It's like advisory plus.
It is,
Which
yeah.
is cool. Anna, how would a customer know if they need this type of service?
Yeah, often it becomes obvious to the customers because they have some pain points. So the customer might experience high support costs, definitely pain points. You're spending too much on just supporting the ServiceNow platform. Or it might be challenges when it comes to every upgrade. So it becoming cumbersome. It's a lot of issues that needs to be fixed. And then that is all often due to an over-customized solution. Another indication might be that the customer struggles to adapt new and more advanced product capabilities that our product team is launching. So you're not able to take advantage of all that intelligence on the platform. And thirdly, it could be that a customer, they might have designed and configured their solution many years ago. We have customers who've been like 10, 15 years on the platform. And at that time, the platform didn't have all the capabilities, so they had to customize some areas that might now be out of the box. Or another scenario is also we see that as customers are evolving, that your business are evolving, your processes might change and your business drivers might change, and the solution that you have in place maybe is not meeting your current need.
Okay, good stuff. let me go to another example of an advisory service. This one's near and dear to my heart. It's called Service Catalog Unified. It's an example of a product-specific offering that we have that focuses on Service Catalog and the related tools, capabilities, processes. Like all of our advisory services, it starts with an assessment, an analysis of your service catalog, your request management processes, maturity, and posture. And we actually go in and look at the different catalog items and workflows that you've implemented, not just on your ServiceNow instance, but even on other platforms and tools that might be in your environment, with the goal of helping you rationalize, consolidate, categorize those catalog items, bring them all onto the ServiceNow platform. So you have a one-stop shop for self-service and request management on your ServiceNow instance. And so you get that guidance and coaching, and then to enable you to act and carry forward those recommendations, we include some coaching sessions, specifically some process workshops, and then platform demos. And we'll actually tailor those platform demos based on the results of the assessment. So we'll hit all the main capabilities and features like catalog builder, flow designer, employee center, etc. But if we find in the assessment that maybe catalog builder is really going to be the catalyst that you need to expedite your rationalization, consolidation efforts around service catalog, then we'll spend extra time there so that you're trained up and enabled to use that tool to carry out the rest of the recommendations. This one's a 7-week engagement, and you walk away with those findings and recommendations based on leading practices. And this is an example of a fully packaged, fixed scope, fixed fee service. So what you see is what you get with this one, but it's very easily transacted for that reason as well.
Right. And can you speak a little bit to what is the customer profile? Like, who are the customer that would see value from this?
Yeah, good question. Typically, we see two kind of standard profiles. The first would be a customer who's done the service catalog implementation. They have their service catalog and workflows in their ServiceNow instance, but maybe user adoption is low, or feedback is not positive from your users and customers. Or maybe it's taking a lot of maintenance and upkeep to keep that service catalog healthy. This service and the type of assessment and enablement that we do would help that customer. Likewise, maybe you haven't implemented Service Catalog on ServiceNow, but you're thinking about it. It's on your roadmap. You may or may not have other catalog items and workflows on other tools. Again, the assessment will look at your other tools as well. This service would bring value to a customer in that situation. And then I would just say, we touched on GenAI earlier, but having a solid service catalog is critical to get the full value out of a GenAI solution. So if you're considering going down that path, this offering would give you a really good idea of kind of your service catalog maturity, and if you're ready, if your service catalog is ready for GenAI, basically.
Great.
All right, that's it for advisory. Our third and final category, optimization and remediation services, which are similar to advisory services. They're for existing customers, but those who need more than just advisory services. They need help kickstarting a remediation effort, or a value realization journey. They might need that hands-on keyboard in addition to the expertise from our ServiceNow consultants. So like advisory services, these typically start with an assessment. Here we're identifying improvement opportunities to help you remediate, identify areas where you could optimize, and then we'll define a backlog of stories that you take with you to implement, to remediate and optimize. And then, as I mentioned, you also get that remediation time. So X amount of hours, it differs by offering, where the consultant from ServiceNow is there in your instance, helping you implement like a prioritized subset of those stories. So you'll work with the consultant to pick which stories make the most sense to kind of kickstart the whole thing. And then once the engagement's over, you have the rest of the stories kind of bundled up for you to take along on your journey. So probably our flagship example of one of these services is called CMDB Amplified. It's another product-specific offering that focuses on the CMDB and the related tools, capabilities, processes. This one starts with an in-depth assessment that includes activating the CMDB Data Foundation's dashboard, which they'll use as part of the assessment, but it's also a critical tool for customer to use to just gauge the health of their CMDB data. So it's something you can use once the engagement is long over. You can always come back to this dashboard to kind of check on the health of your CMDB. Based on the assessment, that's when they'll prioritize the remediation stories. And then you also get workshops and coaching as part of this that focus on our common service data model, CMDB governance, and related topics. And then as mentioned, you get that remediation time. So in the case of CMDB Amplified, you get 20 hours of remediation time with a ServiceNow consultant, knocking off those stories that make the most sense to start with, or they're like the low-hanging fruit kind of remediation stories that that you can implement within that 20 hours. This one is a 7-week engagement, kind of like Service Catalog Unified. You walk away with those prioritized stories, some of those stories already remediated and implemented, and as well as the CMDB dashboard for you to use on an ongoing basis. This one's also fully packaged, fixed scope, fixed fee with a product code, so very easily transacted as well.
All right, and Mick, I need to ask you, why did we decide to create this service offering?
Yeah, this one has an interesting story. So many times we'll get feedback from customers or from account executives for ideas for offerings that will be helpful to folks on ServiceNow. This one came about a little bit differently. So we actually saw that data suggesting that many of our customers were struggling with the health of their CMDB. And if you know anything about CMDB, it's a complex topic and it's a complex process and a very large data set that you kind of have to manage, and it requires a lot of care and feeding. It's also a foundational piece of so many other ServiceNow products and applications. So we saw a need for a service to come in and help kickstart remediation efforts around CMDB. I'd also say this is another one to try and get right before embarking down the Gen AI path. The CMDB and its data underpins so many ServiceNow products and capabilities that you definitely want to be in a good spot with your CMDB before going too far with Gen AI. All right, that brings us to poll question number 2, also our final poll question of the day. So based on what you've heard today, which services do you think can help you get to value? And we did include an other option. So please feel free, if you select other, to put that category or type of offering in the chat. We'd love to hear your ideas there, if it's something outside of those main 3.
Looks like
Optimization.
optimization and remediation is in the
Yep.
lead. All above, we like that.
Yep. Nice. Little something for everybody here, which is good.
So we'll end and share the result in a second here. I'm not sure everybody will see it as you and me do. And all right.
Cool. Thanks everybody for participating in that. So as promised, we left some time for Q&A. So you can use the Q&A function at the bottom of your window to ask questions. If you want to ask a question privately, please leave your question and contact info in the survey, and we'll definitely follow up with you. If you want to ask a question that way, not in the larger forum, then Anna and I will review that feedback and get back to you as soon as we can with an answer to your question.
Yeah, so I'm looking here, can cover some, and we can divide and
Sure.
conquer. So what
Yes.
is service offering? So anytime when we define a scope and an outcome and kind of package it, we call that a service offering. So we deliver services to our customers every day, all day long, which is customized to a customer's need. But in some cases, we defined a specific, again, specific set of scope and activities, and then we package that, and that's what we call service offerings. So where can I find pricing on the CMDB Amplified offering? So we are providing, as part of this document, a link to our offering catalog. I don't think it includes pricing, but if you leave your name in the survey, we will definitely connect with you and provide detailed pricing on any service that you're interested in, and also, of course, connect with your account team, and especially if you know your services sellers on that account, he or she would be able to provide more info too. But happy to connect after this and send you detailed pricing. What's the difference between this dashboard and the CMDB health dashboard?
I don't think that there is a difference. I can double check, but I think it was they're the same, two names for the same dashboard.
Okay, so those were the questions in the chat or in the Q&A. Let's see if we have anything in the chat. Do you see any?
One just came in through Q&A.
Okay.
Can I get a more detailed demo for the CMDB Amplified offering? I'd go back to what Anna said. You'll receive links to more information about each of these offerings, including offerings that we didn't include in the presentation today. We have several more. We probably only covered about a third or so of them, but you'll get links to all of them. And I would say if you need a more detailed demo or have specific questions, again, leave them in the survey and we can get back to you, or reach out to your account exec who can put you in touch with a services exec and help answer questions there.
All right, I think we covered everything then. Let's go to key takeaways, Nick.
Sure. All right.
All right. Okay. Last slide for today. Yeah, so the most important thing for us is that you as a customer get to value and can effectively enable all the capabilities on the platform to meet, to deliver to your desired outcomes. So because of that, we want to hear from you, like we said. We want to get input from you if you have issues with your implementation. We want to hear from you if you seek guidance, if you have questions on what should we do next, if you have concerns or question about your already implemented solutions. So if you are not familiar with the service account executive, connect with your account executive. Hopefully you know who that is, and he or she can put you in contact with your service account executive. And with that, we want to thank everybody who joined today, and just put a reminder out there to fill out the survey. And like we mentioned, if you want to connect with us directly, put some notes in the survey too, and we will reach out for sure. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.